Hey guys, I'm convinced my memory is going. At my age, it's getting harder and harder to remember things. Now, before anybody panics, let me explain something. Do you remember the lyrics from the song I'm Not As Good As I Once Was by Toby Keith? The line that says, I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. Well, that pretty much explains my memory these days and the memory of most of my fishing buddies. It's funny how conversations go when a bunch of old fishermen get together. They almost always start the same way. You remember, what's his name? You know who I'm talking about. He was a pro fisherman for years. He used to talk about throwing a crankbait. Big guy, kind of heavy set. Long pause. We're both racking our brains trying to think of who he's talking about. Both of us are staring off into space, digging through that dusty filing system we call a brain. And then suddenly, one of us blurts out, David, David Fritz. That's right. That's right. That's him. You remember him? Yep. Yep. And another long pause. My buddy says, why'd I bring that up? I said, man, I don't know. But we continue the conversation, keep moving on. Neither one of us having the faintest idea why he mentioned David Fritz in the first place, because now we're stuck on the name of a fishing lure. You remember, it was long and skinny, like a Rapala, only it had a propeller. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember. Had polka dots. Yeah, it was, oh, damn. Can't think of the name. Right on the tip of my tongue. And so it continues. I can tell you this much. I may struggle with names, places, and even the names of fishing lures these days, but I'm convinced they're still up there somewhere. The problem isn't that the information is gone. The problem is I can't seem to retrieve it. Sometimes I see a little picture of it in my brain. I don't know if that's normal or not. I never shared that with anybody before. But it's kind of like knowing you've got a tackle box full of crankbaits. You just can't remember where you put them. And now, like every year I have to take these stupid memory tests at the doctor's office. You know the ones. They're always testing to see if you have early Alzheimer's or dementia. Count backwards from 100, the doctor would say. Well, I'd stumble briefly, but eventually I'd make it to around 85, 84. And by then he'd usually stop me. And he'd say, recite the months of the year backwards, starting with December. This one always puzzled me a little bit because I felt like I should go forward instead of backwards. But after a tough start, I'd usually be able to make it all the way back to January. And then came the real challenge. The doc would say, I'm going to give you 3 things that I want you to remember and repeat them back to me a few minutes from now. And usually be something simple, something like Bob Smith, 112 Elm Street, green. And now I immediately would begin repeating all 3 of these to myself, trying like hell to remember because I'm real competitive and I wanted to win. So I looked at this as a contest. I would continue to repeat them in my head over and over and over, like I'm studying for the bar exam. And then all of a sudden he steps out of the office. Bob Smith, 112 Elm Street, green. Got it. Keep repeating it over and over and over. 5 minutes goes by, door opens, Doc walks back in. He says, okay, so what are the 3 things I asked you to remember? And I proudly say, Bob Green. And the doc smiles and says, okay, you're normal. Normal? Maybe. But I can tell you one thing for sure. Conversations with my fishing buddies take a lot longer than they used to because we spend more time trying to remember a name or a place or a fishing lure than we do talking about the actual subject. Last week, I heard a friend of mine tell a younger guy something that really stuck with me. He looked at me and he said, you see that old boy over there pointing to me? He's forgotten more about fishing than you'll ever know. I was proud of that. I thought that was pretty nice of him to say. And you know what? I think he might be right. Thanks for watching, folks. Have a great day.